Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this special edition of Broken Not Shattered. You're going to say, what? Come on, there you go again, talking about how special the session is. Well, all our sessions are special, but this one, my God, I was just blown away a few minutes ago talking to Keena, actually. Keena, thank you for joining the Broken Not Shattered podcast, the BNS podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super blessed.
Good. And where are you located?
Currently, I'm in Indiana right now.
Indiana. And how's the weather and life out there?
You know, it's a little warmer than it has been, so we're embracing that right now. But it is supposed to drop down to 29 tonight, so we're gonna enjoy it while it's here.
Okay. All right, Ken. Let's get straight into it because I'm excited to see what's about to happen. Tell us about yourself, who you are. Tell us your story. Everyone has a story. What is Keena's story?
Sure. So I'm an author of 2 books. I wrote actually Broken Not Shattered is my first book. And this is it. This is a book that's extremely raw and real. It's from birth to about 2015. I went through a lot of things in my youth, from being sexually abused as a child to addiction to leaving home at 14. I was in foster care for a year. I joined the carnival by the time I was 16 and owned and operated 6 carnival games by the time I was 17. So I've lived a very full, wild life in my youth. And in 2018, I surrendered everything to Christ. I fell flat on my face and I was just tired of living for myself. And so I ended up having a massive encounter with the Holy Spirit in January of 2018 and began witnessing miracles and healings and things only God could do. Soon after that, a woman came up and told me that the Lord told her in prayer to bless me with a home. And I was handed a $250,000 cashier's check to purchase my first house.
Wow.
And yeah, only God could do it. So I also am the author of Healed Not Broken, which is the testimony of everything that happened in 2018.
Your story is definitely one of resilience and one of faith. When I was told personally that I was interviewing you, my team didn't tell me about the book. They did not tell me about the book. And it's amazing how you wrote this book in 2018, you said?
The first one, Broken Not Shattered, was 2016.
2016.
Yes.
The title of this podcast is Broken Not Shattered. And it was given to me at a very dark time in a very dark place.
Yeah.
2012, something like that. And it was supposed to be a book. But I was filled with so much pain and so much hurt. I just said, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then it came up again in 2015 that it was time for me to start working on this thing. Then I opened myself up, but I kept on, because of where I was going through, I just couldn't get myself to do it. Amazingly, God wanted that book out. And he said to me, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to call someone else, someone else in any part of the world to write that book and put it out. That word has to go out. And here you are, full circle, and meeting the author of the book. The author of the book.
It was a very tough book to write. I understand your hesitation on it.
I was not ready. I was not ready. I couldn't just do it. I said, I can't do it. And then in 2020, we started the podcast, Broken Not Shattered, as a podcast.
I love that.
And here we are. We call it the BNS for just easy. But if you look at everything, all our material, we keep on using the word Broken Not Shattered, so we don't lose the focus of the podcast.
Amen.
Keena, thank you for making out time to be with us. We're going to talk about your book, but your story already, just the intro of what you've been through. Can you take us back to your childhood? What was your earliest memory of feeling shattered or feeling abandoned or feeling broken? And how did that shape you and your journey?
Boy, that's a deep question. So a lot of abuse started very young in my life. Uh, my father was much older man. He was actually 59 when I was born, and he was my hero. He was an amazing man, and to this day, he's one of the men that have never hurt me. I've, very thankful God made him my father. I was blessed.
Wow.
My relationship with my mother was different. There was some jealousy and anger, and it was very unhealthy. So I was molested and touched wrong at a very young age, around 6 years old, and it just kept trailing from there. It was almost like the enemy had his hands on generations of my family. And when I was 14, I ended up running away, and I was put in foster care. And I was in foster care for a year, and it was very challenging. So, remembering being broken, there was, boy, that was very young. I was very young, and so what I ended up doing is trying to numb that pain. There was this desire to numb it and not actually face it or walk through it. Now, I was raised in church, but no one explained relationship with the Lord to me. I didn't know about Holy Spirit living inside of me. No one explained that it wasn't about religion, but it was about relationship with him. That, yeah, he's after our hearts and after our minds. And I didn't understand that, but I always knew he was the answer, even though I was drinking and I was doing drugs. And, I just kind of drowned the pain that I was feeling in other ways, because when you're not hearing truth, you don't know it.
That's correct.
And yeah, so
you're not hearing truth, you don't know.
So, Kobe, you've been through addiction, incarceration, mental health struggle. What moment stands out as the turning point in your recovery journey?
I think for me, it was when I was originally, I was getting through my addiction. I was released from jail, and I was able to reach out to my friends and family to get additional help and resources. I was really fortunate that the people in my life were able to get me in to see a doctor. I was able to get a referral to a psychiatrist, and shortly after that, I had received my diagnosis. I was 21 at the time. I'll be 31 this year. It's been about 10 years since I got sober and got my diagnosis, and got the help I needed to be able to live a full and functional life.
So Kobe, schizophrenia is often misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
What's one myth or misconception about that?
I think the biggest misconception that I still hear is that people with schizophrenia can't live full functional lives, even with treatment and medication. So when people meet me, they have a hard time believing that I was diagnosed with schizophrenia because I'm doing quote unquote so well. And that can be really dangerous because it leads people to put an expectation on individuals with schizophrenia that they can't succeed, or they can't be able to work or find goals or be able to do anything that like a normal person does in a day-to-day life. And so I think when someone's diagnosed with schizophrenia, we're not giving them the resources they need to really thrive. We're just giving them the resources enough to survive and not be able to pursue all the things that they would be able to do with the right help.
A whole lot of persons might really not understand what is schizophrenia. Can you share in a broader perspective what it is all about, how it is, how it was for you, before discovery, before diagnosis, during diagnosis, and after diagnosis?
Yeah. There's still a huge misconception where sometimes people confuse schizophrenia with DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. They are not related. So DID is where people have multiple alters. It's what used to be known as multiple personality disorder. Schizophrenia is really having auditory and visual hallucinations. It's having paranoia and delusions. So for me, when I was first diagnosed, it really started with paranoid thoughts. So I was having constant paranoid thoughts that I was being followed, or I was being, persecuted by government agencies, by people around me. I also would then fall into delusional thoughts where I thought people in my life were trying to harm me. And that led very quickly to me struggling with visual and auditory hallucinations. And so I always describe those as something that if I'm seeing them or hearing them, they're real to me, even though no one else can see or hear what I'm experiencing. They're so real to the point where I can't be convinced otherwise. So if I'm having these symptoms, I truly believe in the moment that whatever I'm experiencing is real, no matter how outlandish it is, no matter how much it might not make sense. And so I really wanted to convey that to people. So when I started doing advocacy, I tried to really paint a picture of what my life actually looks like with this illness, what I experience, and all of the other things that I go through just with this diagnosis.
Today, we're going to talk about domestic violence, abuse, and anything in that space. Today's topic is the breaking point. And Amanda, you have been through a lot. So let's just start with the general information that we have out there. I was told that in 2023 that an average of 10 women are either murdered or impacted by domestic violence every 1 minute in the United States or globally. What is your take to those high numbers? That's a big concerning, isn't it?
It's very alarming that happens so frequently, and I think that a lot of times we kind of overlook domestic violence. We see it on TV, what's displayed on social media. We think it looks like broken bones and bruises, but there's so many different types of abuse that we tend to overlook. So those numbers are alarming, but I know that they are very true. They're very true, and it's very sad.
So let's take a minute to see how we can educate our audience from your perspective. You mentioned types of abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me as a guy, when I think about abuse, I'm thinking about physical, most likely, or emotional, where playing all those funny games, right? But for you as a woman, when you say types of abuse, what are you talking about from your perspective?
Sure. From my perspective, even my own personal experience, like you mentioned, there is physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's psychological abuse, there's also financial abuse. And I think a lot of society doesn't know the different types of abuse. And so we just kind of like put it in one box. Okay, well, if she doesn't have any bruises, or if even if it's a man, if he doesn't have any bruises, then he's not going through any abuse.
So we know what physical is. We all know that physical one is a black eye, broken bone somewhere.
Yes.
Correct. We understand that one. Okay. Most of us are now catching on to the emotional abuse, right? When emotions are involved, or psychologically you're messing with someone's mind, you're gaslighting and all that great stuff.
Correct.
What does financial abuse look like?
Sure. So with financial abuse, maybe your abuser may be withholding finances from you, could be taking your money, could be not allowing you to have access to your own funds to be able to take care of your own personal needs. So it's them using your ability or your access to your funds, to finances.
So how about if it's their money? Do you have a right to it if you're in a relationship with them, and they say that they don't want to give you money to go shopping? Would that be seen as financial abuse?
I think it could be. I mean, if you're in a partnership with someone and you've used that money before to be able to take care of your needs of your household, to buy food, and now you're saying, well, you can't have that money. You don't have access to the money. I'm only going to give you $5. Do whatever you can do with that.
So it sounds to me then it's more of
Control.
power show, control, right? So whatever tool you're using to control that person, whether you're hitting them physically, which is absolutely wrong, or whether you're using the financial power that you have to control them. It sounds as if that's what it's all about. Am I correct or no?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, even to the point where we're a person or your abuser is trying to pull you away from your family, your support circle, your friends. You can't be, around these people. You can't go to church and be around this community anymore that you have found as your support system. And now they're pulling you away or they're isolating you from what you know.
And what are the first signs that one should be mindful of when they see? What are the first signs of abuse, or that you are in a toxic relationship, or that? What are the red flags?
Yeah. And before we mention that too, there's also spiritual abuse that people don't talk about either.
I want to hear about that one.
It's kind of the same thing. Maybe they might be using religious scriptures or words saying that, well, the Bible says this, or this, book says this, so you're supposed to be submissive to me, or I'm allowed to abuse you or to hit you and control you because this is what this word says. And sometimes, we've all seen that too with cults, right? Where people take the words from the Bible, specifically for me, because I'm a Christian, they'll take the words from the Bible to control someone or manipulate them into doing something. So when you talk about what are some of the signs, it's progressive. In my personal experience, it's progressive. Me growing up in a very sheltered home, and not being exposed to a lot of toxicity, I didn't see the signs. So in my own personal relationship, I saw a lot of anger, a lot of punching walls and things of that sort, and not knowing that that's a red flag. That's not normal. You should really pay attention to what's going on in this relationship. This person has an anger management issue.
And you talk about broken, not shattered. And it's because I've been through so much adversity in my own personal life and in my business that I'm able to really see and hear and understand the clients that I work with. Because as we know, the majority of us are constantly navigating our own personal and professional storms. And it's through the resilience that really help us rise and continue to be successful. And so, as you say, broken, not shattered, you're right. None of us are broken. And despite our circumstances, we really can arise to create a life that is meaningful to us and a life that we love.
Well, I completely agree on that one, that we can actually rise from the ashes. I'm a living testimony of someone who's done that. I want to believe Obi2 has Obi2 has his own story. Obi, go ahead. Ask your questions.
So, Grace, looking at you honestly, you epitomize the saying, we do not look like what we've been through. Going through your bio, there was a whole lot I saw that got my jaw drops. And it popped a whole lot of questions that I don't know where to start from. But one of the things that inspired me that I said I must ask you is what inspired you to write that book, Can I Live?
That's a great question. So when I was 19 years old, I found myself in a very abusive and toxic relationship with a boy. And there was an afternoon after, work, I was excited to go see him and pick him up. So, we could go and have a nice dinner and have fun. However, when I got to his office to pick him up, I was a few minutes late, and he came out and he punched me, and he threw my keys on top of the roof of the building. And I sat there on the sidewalk, just feeling ashamed and devastated and alone, hurt. And at that time, there was nobody that I could go to, because in the world that I grew up in, you don't go share those types of experiences. I would be humiliated, and I would have for sure humiliated my family. So I internalized that experience. And there was a small voice inside of me that told me, like, this is not healthy. This is not okay. And So by the grace of God, I was led to Catholic Charities where they offered me $8 therapy because I was a student. So I met the lady, Rebecca, that I would work with on and off for the next 25 years. 9 years ago, when I started my coaching side of the business, I reached out to her and I let her know that, I'm starting a coaching side of the business. I'm going to be, helping people, meet their life and business goals. And she said, Grace, I'm going to be transparent with you, and I hope you don't get offended. When I met you, when you were 19 years old, I didn't believe that there was any hope left for you. I thought that you were going to continue to walk down the path of abuse and dysfunction and neglect. And I said, wow. I said, I'm not offended at all. That just speaks to the resilience of the human spirit. And many people have always asked me, like, how did you do what you did? Like, how did you get from there to here? And so that's why I was inspired to write the book. And I really write about the steps that I took to help myself rise and to get from, that broken 19-year-old girl to this very at 54 now, I'm very successful entrepreneur. I've been successful, I'm a healthy family, I'm healthy. And so that's really what inspired me, because I believe that anyone can rise despite their circumstances.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, Obi, let's go with our break.
great. Now,
You became a foster mother to your young teenage nieces, am I correct?
Yes, one was a teenager and one was a little girl. She was 5.
And both had severe mental illness. Can you take us back to the moment you began to realize that this journey was not just for her, but also for you?
I can. I can. We entered into that journey of foster parenting just about as clueless as you could. I mean, truly, we adorably clueless. We thought the girls were going to be fine because we were good people and we had good educations and we were professionals and we were just going to love them. And we spent the first couple of months, it was the summer, and we spent the first couple of months getting the girls integrated into our family and trying to get them caught up on medical care and mental health treatment and dental care, all the things that they'd missed in their prior home. And we entered my oldest niece into high school, the local high school. And very early on in that school year, in middle September, I got a phone call from the school counselor telling me I needed to come pick her up because she was suicidal and she had a plan.
Wow.
And I said, what should I do? And she said, well, you should take her to the emergency room. And that was the first of many, many trips to the emergency room and stays in the psychiatric unit. And the fear that I felt in that moment and the overwhelming sense that I had absolutely no idea how to do this was intense, and it just got worse.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here you are dealing with attempts of suicide, hospitalization, schools calling you up. Everything is spinning out of control for you because you're wondering, how did we get here? But many people that we speak to kind of have a sense of guilt when they feel they can't fix the problem of their loved one. As a dad myself, anytime my daughters come to me and they have something heavy going on in their lives and I can't fix it, I struggle with it. Like, hey, why can't I fix this? Did you have such struggles? And if you did, how were you able to battle that sense of guilt every now and then, feeling like, oh, I failed these nieces of mine who have been put into my care? That's at all, if at all you went through that.
I definitely did. I felt absolutely alone and I felt confused. we had not gotten any training on how to deal with all of this until the girls had been with us for several months, was when we had our standard foster parent training, which didn't even come close to addressing the significant issues that my oldest niece dealt with. And I just had so much to learn and so much to unlearn too. She had come from a family where survival was the absolute goal. And she had learned at a very young age that you do what you need to do to survive.
Right.
And so in my family, for instance, lying is a character flaw. Lying is what bad people do. And so if she would lie to me, I would be absolutely beside myself. Well, we don't lie in this family. How could you be lying to me? And meanwhile, she's just confused because she's doing what she's always done to survive, to get by. And so I had to unlearn some things, and I had to learn that's a coping skill. That's not a character flaw. And in the same way, I had to learn about mental health, that mental health isn't a character flaw. I didn't think that it was, but I didn't know what it was really. I mean, honestly, my mental health education had come from People magazine, really, up until that point, right? Like which wasn't very much back then.
Yes.
We didn't talk about it. And so here I was, this suburban mom with 4 little kids that I was taking to the elementary school every day and picking them up on the playground at the end of the school day. And the other moms on the playground are talking about fractions and potty training. And I'm thinking about, I just found another stash of pills. I know the older one is going to try to overdose. Do I tell her that I found the pills? Do I not tell her I found the pills? Like, it was an incredibly isolating time. And it was years before we found any sort of help for ourselves. And it was, I'll tell you, nobody told me to go get help for myself. Nobody said, hey, girlfriend, raising kids with mental health issues, that's too hard. You shouldn't be doing that without professional help.
Support, yes.
And so as parents, we feel like we've got to just muscle through this thing. We've just got to tough it out and grit our teeth and any other cliche you can think of.
Right.
And that's dumb. It's too hard. So that's one of the reasons that I do the work I do, is to make sure that people know, you don't need to do this by yourself. That's not necessary. Life is better on the other side of getting the help and support that you need. And if you love somebody with serious mental health issues, you're having your own journey and your own experience that's going to require some support.
So would you there were several things tied to your story, right? Um you went from one level of struggle to the other, from ill health to abuse and others. But we want to break it down. So first, how has been this journey of being a sickle cell warrior, and how did you come about that you know that acronym, sickle cell warrior, or that phrase, sickle cell warrior, and to run a foundation for sickle cell?
So basically, I started sharing my journey in 2017. 2017 was the mark where God said that He was going to use me to share my story with many people around the world. And not only that, I at the time also, when they found out I was a sickle cell, um they also said that it would never be possible for me to have kids. They also said that it would never be possible for me to live the age of 12 years, that it's not going to be possible, that I should not even try having kids because it's not going to happen. So when I fell pregnant in 2017 and I found I was pregnant, it was one of the biggest miracles in my life, because I wasn't expecting to be pregnant. They said I was not going to be pregnant. So many things that they said that right now I am able to do. So at the time, I was facing complications in my first pregnancy, my first son, my son, complications whereby they said that he's not going to make it. They were thinking of doing emergency C-section. Even to now, I don't know why they didn't do that C-section, but eventually I had safe delivery, And it was up until there I told God that if he allowed me to have my child safely, I was going to share my story, and that has been the case. I came up with Uju Cell Warriors just after I had my son, that I gave that name Uju Cell Warriors.
So, that brings me to, part of it. What is that biggest misconception about sickle cell warrior? There definitely must have been this misconception that the name has had about.
So for me, they say that we are not able to live a certain age, we're not able to, strive, we're not able to have children. I am one of the biggest testimony for myself and for my whole generation is that I've been able to have not one but two. And this is medical science telling me that I can't have children. This is medical science that is telling me that I cannot live past 12 years or past the 13, whatever. But next month I'm about to be 39. So it depends on determination. It depends on what you want and believing in yourself. Not always believing in medical science. I didn't say you shouldn't listen to them more, but believe more in yourself and then in the world. Yeah. Yes.
So before we leave, would you tell us more about your foundation? What have you been doing currently and what do you intend to achieve?
So currently I I'm on Instagram. I'm building a platform strictly for warriors. Like I said, Uju Sickle Cell Warriors. You can check me out there. Currently I plan to this maybe this year, next year, I want to build a community of warriors. I want to reach more warriors. My plan is, if I'm not able to do it this year, maybe next year, is to reach out to hospitals, especially in Nigeria. I want to reach out to hospitals. I want to be able to help warriors in hospitals, people who cannot pay for medication. I want to be able to give medications to warriors. I want to be able to, feed them. I want to maybe to make them happy because warriors, they need to be happy to be able to exceed in life. They need to be happy. They need to have that kind of confidence in themselves to be able to reach their potentials for their next generation or for the next generation.
Uju, is nice having you on the studio. Thank you so much, Uju. We look
Thank
forward to seeing
you.
you again.
Thank you for having
Bye.
me.